said that he had a mission to do, that he was looking to do his Father's will. So the kingdom of heaven has a very small beginning, but it grows, and it has. Jesus had faith like the mustard seed, and God was with him, and he was able to teach for 3.5 years and proclaim the gospel, the good news of the kingdom of heaven. The gospel that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, that God is about to open the door to heaven so that people have access to God. No longer are men locked out from heaven, but God is going to make the way possible for men to enter into His presence. Now 4,000 years have gone by. No man has been able to enter heaven. Jesus said that's about to change. God is going to fix that problem, that man will have access to God. And he had the faith of a mustard seed to teach this message throughout Galilee and Decapolis and Judea. And he taught the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and encouraged people to turn from evil and turn back to God. And that's what we need to do, because if we do not serve God, God will bring wrath upon us. He will bring punishment. And if we do not serve Him, we cannot expect His blessing. We must, with our heart and soul and strength, we must serve God above everything. We must not love anything more than God. And if we do, if we love something more than God, we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. We must be willing to give up everything for the kingdom. We must be willing to walk away from home, from family, from job, from money, whatever it takes, even life itself. We must be willing to give it up for the kingdom of heaven's sake. And if we're not willing to do that, He said, you're not worthy of me, and you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Because if you put something before God, He calls that idolatry, that you serve something more than Him. The problem in our modern age is that we have so much abundance compared to what our fathers had, that we have so much luxury and ease. And because of this, we become focused on the things of this life and the things of material nature that are temporary. And we forget that God is first. We say, you must serve God. Oh, I'm going to school, or I'm trying to work to make a living, or I'm too busy. Too busy. Well, if you're too busy for God, you're too busy. You need to reprioritize. You need to put God first. You need to seek Him first, and keep in mind what the mustard seed is doing. The mustard seed is growing in His kingdom, and God expects us to grow from day to day, get stronger and progress and be busy in the kingdom of heaven. Be fruitful. Bring forth fruit like the mustard seed does. Eventually it puts forth branches and it produces seed that can be used in cooking as a hot, spicy flavor. And it can be used in cooking, so it has a purpose. It has fruit. Christians have fruit. Love, peace, joy, righteousness, long-suffering. This is the fruit of Christian, that their lives are like Jesus. They reflect the glory of God. And they reflect His kindness and His character. And they put away from themselves malice and anger and wrath and strife and the works of the flesh. They put them away. And they grow. They grow in Jesus like the mustard seed. Day by day, putting forth new shoots. The kingdom of heaven had a small beginning. And in Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 1, the prophets described the kingdom of heaven as if it were a branch coming up from a tree that had been cut down. If you cut down a tree, sometimes they'll put out a new branch. And Isaiah described the house of Jesse as a tree that had been cut down. There shall come forth a rod, or a shoot, out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And then in Isaiah 53 and verse 2, for he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He hath no form or comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him, for he was despised, and we esteemed him not. That's Isaiah's description of the Messiah. That's Isaiah's description of Jesus. And he was despised. He was like that tiny grain of mustard seed that it had, it was not much. But he grew, and he had faith, and he moved the mountains. And he became a great plant that the birds in the air came and lodged in its branches. The birds of the air in the Old Testament, many times the nations are described as being the various kinds of birds. One nation like Babylon was a hawk or eagle that would sit in the top of the tree. And there were other birds that the ravens were the Romans, and there were other nations that were described as birds. So the kingdom of heaven put out its branches, and the nations came and they nested in the branches of the kingdom of heaven. And that happened. But it was because that Jesus had faith, and he grew, and he became a great plant that filled the earth. And the birds came and lodged in his branches.